That's definitely gonna be a clip. Oh shit. All right. Where we at? What was I talking about? All right. So yeah. So Kendrick's catalog is so pristine that it's hard to like imagine that he could continue to meet this level of quality. And so just for the sake of like just being a hip hop fan and just wanting a win at this level, I just want it to really be good. I just really want it to be good is all it comes down to. The Heart 5, like my first listening, I was like, okay, this is cool, but like every subsequent listening, and then the video, it gets like more and more in your guts. I hope if you watch my shit, you can like see some of the parallels between the Will Smith video and what he's talking about. And so like, I'm just nervous. Like and there's so much going on and Kendrick's not like one to fully hold his tongue. I'm just nervous that like, there's gonna be like glitches on the album. I'm a Kanye fan. I'm just used to being disappointed. You know what I'm saying? I haven't like loved a Kanye album when it drops since Dark Fantasy. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just really, I need it to be, I just need it to come through. We need a clear W. And yeah, that's it. That's why I'm nervous. So, but we got some other rappers to talk about. Because it's really not. No, I did want to talk about one thing with Kendrick. So, I've got a lot of questions about like, am I gonna make a Kendrick Lamar video? And probably not. I really just don't see myself making a video about Kendrick because Kendrick's music is amazing. Kendrick's story and like his relevance in hip hop, that's a 10-minute conversation. That's a light work, which maybe I'll do a light work on the side channel. I'm trying to bring the light works back hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Because it's like Kendrick just came and just was the best. It's like that simple. He doesn't talk much. He didn't have any like crazy beefs. He didn't really create any controversies too tough. He just started making music and then was better than everybody. Like the most I could get is what I said in the Drake video, that like everybody thought that hip hop of this like nature would no longer have commercial relevance. And then he came out and it was like, oh, okay, no, Kendrick can do it. And then that's it. It's just not a lot of, like deep analysis. There's no real story. Like if you've noticed when I do my videos on hip hop, the thing I'm really doing is just telling the story of hip hop. And no, see, I'm not gonna, so people say, if I wanted to analyze the music, I could, but I don't, that's not me. I'm not gonna sit here and do music analysis. I just don't, not for an hour. That sounds fucking awful. That's not what I do. I'm a sociologist. I'm a culture critic. I'm a historian to an extent, and I'm a philosopher. So like just sitting here and breaking down bars, I would be bored personally making it, so I just know I'm never gonna make that. And like the only thing that's interesting about his impact isn't super deep. It's basically like him, and this is actually to me the story of the Heart Part 5 is, it seems like him almost giving up on being conscious. Does that make sense? Like, I'll never forget, it was really a really powerful moment in Damn, was him performing, was the live performance version of I Love Myself. I can't remember the name of it. And so, like, if you remember that track from Damn, I Love Myself, it came out like a long time before, and it didn't really it didn't make a big splash. And I imagine that was disappointing to him because it was this beautiful, really positive, like soulful song. And then on the album, it's a live version of it. So it's not the original version. And the message I got from that, because if you remember that song on Damn, or was it on Pimp a Butterfly? My bad, that was the Pimp a Butterfly. So if you remember that on the Pimp a Butterfly, he does the song live, and then like halfway through, he stops it. And he's like, the basic vibe is, yo, y'all not hearing me. Y'all not listening. And then he goes into another rhyme just trying to get the people to hear what he's saying. And then you get to Damn, and you kind of get the vibe that he's realizing that although his music is amazing and touching and powerful, he's not Tupac. And I say that as a person who's not the biggest Tupac fan in my generation. And even Tupac didn't have the impact that I think he imagined and wanted to have as an artist. And actually, so I can tie this to some of this Young Thug shit. So I posted on Twitter the other day, this dude Wallow, I'm not familiar with him. He seems to be a podcaster. He just does hip hop podcasts. He's sitting here talking to, I think he was talking to Dirk in one video, and he's talking to Young Thug in another video. For those who don't know, Young Thug is a Atlanta rapper, pretty long-standing, like well-established in the game now. He got caught up, him and his whole crew got put up on RICO charges earlier this week. And like, that's RICO charges, those are Fed charges, and I don't see him beating those. And legit being in Atlanta and knowing just a little bit, knowing about like Young Slime life or whatever it was called, I feel like they got him. Unless there's some snitching. The only way that anybody that goes free from this incident, it snitched on everybody else. As far as that's how I see it. RICO charges are not like normal charges. So, you know, and that sucks on numerous levels. So the video I'm referring to, this guy Wallow is sitting there, and you know, if you're a black boy, especially, but black folks in general, and I'm sure like people of other races have similar experiences, you've had that moment where an old head tried to sit you down and talk to you. Like, you know, you probably had multiple. You've had multiple times where an old head sat down and said, yo, do this, stop doing this, or bad things will happen. And it can be old heads that know your situation, old heads that don't know your situation, old heads that's been where you're from, old heads that's been where you're trying to go. Like, the thing that frustrates me a lot of times about the way people talk about black issues is they like assume that when we're out here talking about white supremacy and racism, that black folks aren't internally having like countless conversations and initiatives and actions trying to explain and keep the youth from reaching RICO charges. And the thing I learned pretty early as a teacher, I was a teacher. People, if you follow me for long enough, you know, but if you don't know, I was a high school teacher for about 10 years. And then after that, I worked in the court system. So I spent 13, 14 years directly in front of the youth, trying to create as many barriers as I can from where they were to where some of them were headed. And I had some successes, but I had a lot of failures, probably more failures than successes. And the thing I learned early on is that I wasn't going to talk like these kids and heard it. The kids, the youth, the young men, they've heard the speech. They've heard it from every angle possible. They've heard it from an old head that's been in the streets. They've heard it from an old head that made it out the streets. They've heard it from an old head that's really successful with money. They've heard it from their uncles, their fathers, their pastors. They've heard those speeches. If you don't change the structural like elements, if you don't change like the healing process, it's really hard. It's a coin flip. that maybe in a specific moment they'll make a decision differently than the one that might get them to RICO charges. And I think, especially for black men who have been through stuff, like bringing it back to Kendrick, I think the idea that you can't change the youth's and the people's trajectory with words and like your own individual acts can be hard to swallow. And I think that's what Kendrick is. I think that's what the Heart 5 is about. I think Kendrick strikes me as a brother who is super passionate about the people, super passionate about the culture, super passionate about like improving black folks. And you can hear that in some of his words. Like he don't even want to, like Black of the Berry. Like I knew Kendrick was good, but I'll never forget when the Black of the Berry hit. I was like, oh no, this it right here. Cause I hadn't for years heard like somebody get on a track and spit black struggle rhetoric with such conviction and passion. And even though like there's little bits and pieces of it, I'm like, ooh, I feel it. And so you hear him, he ends that song on the Black of the Berry with, how could I weep when Trayvon Martin is in the streets, when drug dealing, kill a nigga blacker than me, hypocrite. And a lot of people didn't like that line because it made they felt like it was, blaming black folks for these structural problems. And there's a valid argument to like that take on it. But for me, especially coming from, a brother who did not grow up in the hood, not grow up in the streets, who has access to the books, I always feel like black bourgeoisie people with all the books are way too quick to correct black folks directly in the struggle. Because especially we talking about people, we telling people how to respond to their own material conditions. There's a discourse there, but that discourse should never be led with finger wagging. And like bourgeoisie Negroes, me included, we too quick to do this. Real too quick to do that. And so, but I think over time, I think what I get from Damn and the Heart 5 is that at some point Kendrick is like, I tried to change the world with my art. I tried to change the people with my art, and it's clear that it's the culture. You know what I'm saying? When he says, I want you to love me too, he's like, look, I get what y'all are saying, but I want y'all to feel me. And he makes this subtle, like, Messiah complex illusion in the end as he's talking about going to heaven. So, like, yeah. And so I say all that to bring it back to what I think is interesting. The only thing that I can get out of a Kendrick video, which this is that's a 20-minute piece of analysis, right? Is Kendrick is he's the last of a dying breed of conscious rap. Where he's bringing conscious rap to the mainstream in a way that it's not there now. Like, so please believe conscious rap is still alive and still dope. Denzel Curry dropped a super deep, super powerful and affecting album early this year. Vince Staples just dropped one a couple of weeks ago. Excuse me. Y'all sleeping on Kenny Mason. Like, Kenny Mason's Angelic Hood Rat album from last year, in a year that brought me 2 Dope Nas albums and all kinds of other shit, that is my favorite album from last year. That shit, like, gets me dusty-eyed almost every time I listen to it all the way through. That shit is so powerful. And so, and then, yeah, somebody just said No Name is still doing conscious rap. I named a bunch of ladies in the Nicki Minaj video that's still doing conscious rap. So like conscious rap is still out there, but it's not at this level like Kendrick is. And you know, it doesn't have the same cachet. And then the people like, and I don't know, it doesn't have the culture like it used to. And that's not necessarily like a horrible thing. Like I don't want to make it seem like hip hop is in a worse space. I've said this many times on record or whatever. But like the way that hip hop, the way that music culture works is different because everything is so like sectioned off. It's perfectly brand and market segmented. On one end, that gives us really good music in this particular space that we maybe wouldn't have had before, but it also means that the culture is much more split. And so let's move on. Hey y'all, super sorry. I think one tweet I also said was working from home with kids is like an Elden Ring battle. I am very sorry for the gaps in the conversation. All right, what the hell was I talking about? I don't know. Let's just move on to the actual Kendrick's conversation. That's what we wanted to get into, and I don't want to belabor too long. All right, so man. So the first thing that comes to mind with this album, which is that Kendrick is like a lot of like what do I call them? Like deep empaths that you might find in the hood, without being overly like I'm gonna just say that, right? And this will be posted in some form or fashion. I'm gonna just make this into a video on the side channel, so check out the side channel. So like Kendrick, like if you know like black men who really care about the community, care about people, care about like the things that are happening, like Kendrick always gave me that energy. It's clear. So Section 80 was just like Kendrick's album, right? Here, I'm Kendrick Lamar. Here's my album, and it's a great album. But it was before he really was like, I am going to be the tip of the spear of hip hop for the generation. I'm the next Pac. I'm the next, et cetera, et cetera. And start using Elden Ring characters. I have to play Elden Ring first. And yes, I will upload, like I said, this, the other stream is going up on the Patreon. This will go up on the Patreon in its entirety, but I will be making videos from the other stream and this stream to go on the side channel, Signified B-Sides. If you're not subscribed to Signified B-Sides, like this type of content, just me like shooting the shit, that's where that goes. I just haven't done anything. Deep Blevin, sensitive hood intellectuals, yeah. And not sensitive in a pejorative term, but sensitive in that like Pac was like that. Like some dudes really are empaths and they feel the like pain of the community. They see certain things happening in their communities and that like genuinely affects them and they want to do something. They want to find a way to change that. And so that's who Kendrick to me was, and somewhat in Section 80 and definitely in To Pimp a Butterfly. To Pimp a Butterfly is Kendrick's dream album. That is the album. Oh, what's up, Khadijah? I wish I could bring you, and now I'm in a rush because now I got to get through this in time to eat because the kids been interrupting me this whole time. DMX, a little bit. DMX is also just kind of like an agent of chaos. But like Pac, Kendrick, I get that from a couple of folks. It's just off the top of my head, I can't think about it. To Pimp a Butterfly, was Kendrick's dream album, which is why that's his best album. Like, that's the album I feel like, I don't know how to like describe myself as a creator, right? But it's certain things I imagine I'm going to make something, I have something in mind that when I make it, I'm gonna be like, I did it. This is the thing that I wanted to make. This is my dream project. And everything that I am or believe or want out of this world is in this creation. That was To Pimp a Butterfly. And what you get from To Pimp a Butterfly is like this saving the world. I want y'all to feel me. We gonna be all right. Black of the Berry. If These Walls Could Talk. All of that like pain and love that he wanted for the world went into To Pimp a Butterfly. And the thing that we miss, especially as like the hippity hop fans, you know, who are diving into hip hop critique in media and blogs and shit, is that we loved To Pimp a Butterfly. We were like, this is the greatest thing ever. But there's a lot of folks that just thought it was boring. There's a lot of folks that just was like, this is cool, and they weren't feeling it. Furthermore, I think Kendrick truly thought that album was gonna change the world. You know what I'm saying? For Sale is another one. This Dick Ain't Free, like, ha! Like that, it's funny now, because it's been memed as the Hotep scream. What's going on? But like, he put so much of himself into that album, and on some levels, the streets rejected it. On some level, the people he wanted to reach the most weren't feeling it, right? And so so he put like that sense of rejection and that pain he put into Damn. And Damn is about, like, Damn, he literally says on like 2 or 3 different tracks that we are damned as a people. He took that rejection and that sense of like nihilism towards helping black people, and like just any way that he felt like he was special in this Messiah complex that he's carried. He unpacks that in Damn, and it's ugly. And it's it's I don't listen to Damn much. Damn is hard to listen to. My bad. I'm sorry for your cat, Brooke. And so that's Damn, right? And then he's gone. And so what I feel from this album is that he took that hurt and pain that he put into Damn, and he legit processed it and went to therapy. And this album is the results of that healing process. And it's like I'm not telling you not to interpret the album in whatever way works best for you. I'm not saying nobody else is invited to the album discussion, but I don't think you can talk about this album in its true form if you are not a black man. I feel like black men are hearing this album differently by design, good and bad. Like the bad parts that other people are turned off from this album, there's a specific black male experience that completely understands what happened there. And I'm not saying nobody should critique it or have issues, but I do want to talk about like the nature of some of the things he gets into. Because like, this is like, I've been listening to it every day, you know, back and forth. But it's like hearing it every time, like listening to Father Time while dropping my kids off at school. Almost didn't make it. Like seriously, like hearing it the first time. Like, I'm gonna just start with Father Time, because that's the first one. Like the other tracks, they do a lot, but I want to talk about Father Time real quick. So I heard Father Time the first time, like in bed. If you used to be a black man, I think you still in there. If you understand that, what's the word? If you understand what it means to embody blackness and maleness, if you know what that feels like, if you've shrunk your posture in certain audiences out of fear of how people will relate to just your physical presence, like there's so many elements. Now, of course, some of these things are universal. I'm not telling anybody you can't like feel it, but not just my perception. There's certain pieces of this I don't think fully penetrate if it doesn't connect to a lived experience you have. And so Father Time, bruh, So the first time I heard it, I'm in bed, and like, this is cool, right? The second time I heard it, I was by myself, and the only thing I heard was the ways in which Kendrick's father hurt him. Because that's the way I heard it. Like, that's what I personally most resonated with in the moment. I resonated with, and I didn't even really grow up with my father, but like, that's about just like the projections of black masculinity. When his father, when the moment where the mother's like, yo, he's tired, and the father says, no, tell him to get his ass up and go back out there. Like that, what do I want to call it? That like primitive function that is instilled in us, especially as black men, that says you don't have, the world does not have the capacity for empathy or patience with you. So I, as your dad, am not going to give that to you. So you get your ass up and you get back out there, right? And so I thought about how damaging that was to me. And I didn't even, like, I'm lucky. I didn't have a hood upbringing. I still caught that. You know what I'm saying? And so I caught that. I caught, like, you know, my father had that same conversation about not trusting people. Them same conversations about women that, like, I had to unlearn and unpack over the course of my life. A lot of those, and my father was an educated black man, went to college, like all the things you think, you know, especially you get this bourgeoisie black excellence stuff in your system, you think, oh, we're evolved beyond that, and like, no, like that prescription of black masculinity, surviving it within this world, that's a key feature. I don't care what your bank account says. I don't care how many letters are behind your name on your resume. And so that's what I heard the first time. I heard his pain, right? But boy, when I was with my sons and I heard it again, then I heard his father's pain. And then I was like, ooh. Because when that line where he says, Dad, your mom just died, why are you going back to work? And his father said, don't nobody care, essentially. I have two sons, I have two little black boys, and I'm in constant negotiation with, are they gonna go to therapy and complain about me, or are they gonna go to therapy and complain about the world? Which one do I choose? Because I could do, like, instinctively, I wanna do what Kendrick's father did to him, because that's what was done to me. And to me, it makes perfect sense that is a useful survival tactic for a black man in the world. You know what I'm saying? But then I think about how much unpacking I've had to do based off that experience. How that prescription of how to survive as being a black man has made things harder for me on normal functions. It's made it harder for me to be a father. And, you know, St. Andrewism and Khadijah, I don't know if they're still here. did a great video on parenting, and like in the pandemic, like I had to really sit down and like completely reevaluate the framework of how I parent these boys, because I was a dominance-based parent in my household. I wasn't like super yelling. I wasn't beating on these boys or nothing, but like I was definitely not doing what I'm doing now. You know what I'm saying? And so, but now my fear is, because there's no easy wins. Now my fear is, how is the world going to respond to black men who don't have that protective veneer on at all times? You know what I'm saying? How is the world going to respond to two little black boys? My oldest son's favorite color is pink. I've never told him any issues with that. I've never rejected that, never shunned him for that. Never, like, I'm like, dope, pink, that's a dope color. At some point in time, somebody's gonna challenge him about that. Do I want him to punch that person in the face? Do I want him to get bullied? You know what I'm saying? My sons will just as quickly watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Or insert boy show here, and their new thing is My Little Pony. And so that discourse, and that's a discourse I think a lot of men are familiar with who are not black. A lot of fathers are familiar with who are not black. It takes me to Things Fall Apart, the book. But the texture of it here, yeah. Going down the line. I mean, I'm not gonna go song by song. So like, I can't talk about We Cry Together, y'all. That song, that's the one song I can't relate to. Knock on wood. I've had some bad arguments. But no. Silent Hill and Savior. Mirror. A lot of these tracks, you get to the second half of the album, and I guess it's a double album. I guess it's a double album, so this is like the second half of it. You hear him talking about like how a part of his savior complex was him masking his own traumas, masking his masking the issues he has with trying to save the world. And it's just heavy. It's heavy on so many levels. But let's get to the most controversial parts. Let's first talk about the inclusion of I call him Voldemort on Twitter, and somebody got mad at me. Kodak Black. Kodak Black is awful, right? He is radioactive to me. I don't understand why anybody works with Kodak Black. To me, Kodak Black does not have good enough music to risk being around him at the wrong time. Now the thing that I've heard people say, the theorists, is Kodak represents this toxicity of blackness and maleness unarrested in its purest form, which makes a lot of sense to me. And that having him there juxtaposed to Kendrick on his journey is meant to like evoke understanding how that looks. There's many moments where Kendrick empathizes with men and figures who are persona non grata. When there are a lot of black men who are starting to be very vocal about the nature of our trauma in a way that I think a lot of people aren't ready for. Like Khadijah just said something. Yeah, I had to feel bad for Kodak when he said he didn't want to have a black baby as dark as him, and then angry again. And it's like, yeah, like that type of sentiment does not come from a well space. For you to literally say, and by the way, I've heard many black men say something like that. That is not the first time I've heard a man say that. That I don't want to deal with dark-skinned women because I don't want the child to be dark like I was. That's a thing I've heard multiple black men say throughout my life. So, like, the question that we have to challenge ourselves with, this will be on Patreon, and this snippets of it will be on the Signify B-Sides channel, Starks of 007. Thank you for the $5. So the question we have to challenge ourselves with is, what level of empathy are we going to provide for black men who, like, for black men? Like, what's the spectrum? What's the bell curve? Right? So on this end, we have, I don't know, who's perfect? Who ain't fucked up at all? Give me a black man in the public eye who has no L's and is beloved by everybody. Denzel Washington, okay, I'll go with Denzel Washington, right? So that's the two ends of the spectrum. Everybody said Denzel. I don't know if Will Smith can be on that list no more. And Michael B. Jordan been videotaped with too many white women, and women be throwing shade at Michael B. Jordan ever since. y'all be dogging Michael B. He ain't done nothing but go to one party with white girls, and y'all ain't let him live that down. All right, so we got Denzel on this end, Kodak Black on this end, right? And the thing I've noticed, and I'm getting it from some people's response to this album, and I understand, I empathize with why this is the response, but I gotta speak to it. In between these two extremes are most niggas. In between these two extremes are most black men. Most black men don't have that perfect response ratio as a Denzel. And most black men are not Kodak Black, despite what certain parts of Black Twitter would have you believe. So the question is, where does your empathy start and end? Can you only empathize with niggas up to a point? All right? Or can you empathize across the spectrum? Now, ideally, you would empathize with the whole spectrum in some capacity. But I understand that some folks gotta stop here, because I know that a lot of people have been so, like, a lot of people have real experiences with real dudes that are real monsters. And so I am not gonna charge you with empathizing on this end of that spectrum. I get it. However, and this is where, like, this is where I have some issue with some of the response to the album, even though the album's doing this significant thing. If your empathy stops here, and we all agree that we have a problem we need to address among black men and black people, if your empathy stops here, but other people are going past your comfort zone to address that problem, support them in their journey. Like, don't make people doing work that you're not willing to do for understandable reasons feel like they're doing something wrong in that regard. Does that make sense? I hope that, like, I know, you know, such and such, whomever's gonna take this out of context, and it's hard, like, this ain't a video essay, so this is not perfectly worded by me. But, like, there's a point in some of these conversations where it just feels opportunistic, and it just feels like because there's obvious shitty people on Twitter and then Reddit and whatever else that make it easy to just illustrate shitty thing, black dudes. I blocked 3 niggas today. I understand. I somehow found my way into some conversation about Kevin Samuels and thought I was talking to, like, normal people, and scrolled down the Twitter thread and was like, oh, I don't want these niggas to ever find me again. these motherfuckers I don't have nothing to do with. I get it. However, my homeboy that was still there, I don't judge him. He's on a different tip of doing the work than I'm ready for. I got pronouns in my name. There are some dudes that's never gonna take what I say seriously. Go through my Twitter threads and see how many times somebody said, oh, he got pronouns in his name. Man, he ain't talking about shit. So I say all that to say, I wish he wouldn't have put Kodak on the album, because it muddies the efficacy, the universal efficacy of what the album was trying to do. Especially, you know, Kendrick has a couple little kinks in some things, some moves he's made in the past, a couple little extrapolations you can make about his record in the past. But like, I get it. So it muddies the water. But aren't there a spectrum? Somebody said Twitter's replies are a fucking spectrum. Yeah, it's wild. But at the same time, I completely understand why Kodak is there, because Kodak perfectly, like somebody made a comparison to him in XXXTentacion, and the thing that makes Kodak uniquely vile to me is that he has not changed. He has not grown. I don't even think this nigga said sorry. And a couple of times it seems like he has said sorry. It was like looking at a kid apologize. I got some toxic folks in my wider circle. I got some dudes that I can't rock with them on too many levels, but I keep tabs on them. I check on them. They're never gonna be in a video, cause like, but I keep tabs on them because like I'm still doing that work. That brings me real quick to Mother I Sober. And if there's one project that I'm saving for when I have like every resource, if I want my To Pimp a Butterfly to be, going back to people that may not have been here at the beginning, it's gonna be a project I'm gonna do about the sexual abuse of black boys and men. Because it's an epidemic that has been completely ignored at every possible level of engagement. Period. It's starting to get out there. You see figures like, I'm lukewarm on him, but he's the best voice on this subject. Tommy Curry, Dr. Tommy Curry. A lot of his work revolves around that. It's been touched on before, by other scholars, but as a whole, as like a community on so many levels, we are not engaging with the sexual abuse of black boys, especially if it's not coming from men. When it happens from men, we are able to identify it as abuse. When it doesn't happen from men, meaning when it happens from women, so many people, like I've had this conversation full on with adult, sensible women that I had to like help them catch themselves in the way they talk about boys, teenage boys, losing their virginity to adult women and why that's not okay. And it's not just teenage boys, it gets younger than that. So when you get into Mother I Sober and he talks about how it's not just him, it's not just his mother, it's a lot of rappers. Denzel Curry had a bar like that on his last album. Think about some of the most problematic figures in hip hop and black media right now. DaBaby was, I'm not gonna put words in his mouth, but he had an inappropriate sexual encounter when he was a child. Same thing with Nick Cannon. Same thing with Chris Brown. Same thing with Lil Wayne. Same thing with Mike Tyson. Same thing with Charlamagne the God. And like, I could probably go on. Same thing with R. Kelly. And that's what that line is for. And it's like, I can take a breath. Get some breath on that. Like, I can't deal with y'all if I can't talk about the sexual assault and abuse of R. Kelly as a child, and y'all somehow here defending R. Kelly. I can't fuck with y'all if that's the line. I'm sorry. Because what you're telling me is that I am not allowed to use the narratives and tools necessary to address the needs of Black pain. And I can't do that. Just like I'm not telling you to put that shit under the rug. Just like you would never hear me, there'll never be an R. Kelly video talking about, oh, I miss R. Like, none of that. You know what I'm saying? Just like when intellectual media drops Black femicide, that was hard for me to watch as a Black man. Because I have to think about all the ways in which I participate in that system, both consciously and unconsciously. So, like, if we really wanna shorten up this spectrum between Denzel and Denzel Washington, because some people might think Denzel Curry, between Denzel Washington and Kodak Black, then we have to, and if it has to be, I'm going to help force a space where we start having these conversations, and I'm gonna be careful, and we're gonna be healthy, and we're not gonna always censor Black men, and we're gonna be open-minded and sensitive to how hard this conversation is gonna be. But like, if you're not ready for that, I understand. But don't be throwing rocks. Don't be throwing rocks at the window while we having this conversation. Which brings me to Auntie Diaries. On one end, like, I'm really happy about the song, and on one end, I completely understand and get why some people are like, nah. Needle dropping here. I just finished watching your review right before I came on, so I can steal your ideas and present them as if they were mine. So you're too late. Dope though. What was I saying? So going back to that point earlier about like where dudes are starting from. I guess the best way to like do it is really maybe to go through my own experience. So like I wasn't ever like I'm not from the hood, right? Who's Melon? It's Anthony Fantano, aka Melon, the internet's busiest music nerd. I'm gonna have an effect right there. What was I saying? So I was never like, so I said to say I was never like the like foam at the mouth homophobe dude ever in my life, right? Like never. But as a byproduct of like just the nature of how we construct masculinity in this country, in Black communities and beyond, it was very clear to me that anything non-hetero was not okay. Anything non-cis was not okay. And at a minimum, I need to create distance between me and queer anything and trans anything and whatever. That was very clear to me age 3, 4. And I don't think that's unique to Black men. I don't think that's unique to me. And so that's my whole life, right? So I'm doing this video on the Manosphere, and Ian Danskin made a really like good observation that's gonna be in it. And Ian Danskin did the alt-right playbook series. And so nope. Listen, I'll cry if I need to, but I ain't feel like it. It's just a little dusty in the room. Thank you though, Bellamy. He said that we need to like envision a holding space for people recovering from these regressive like places of thought. But what if we looked at that process as, what's up, Diamond Styles? I didn't know you was in here. What if we looked at that process as, look, we see where y'all are at, and it's good that y'all are not there anymore, right? What if we took y'all out of that space and put you into this specific for you holding space, where we allow you to unlearn and detoxify and like get your shit together? Because people can change. Somebody just said that. Fidel Tammo, thank you. That just caught my eye. People can change, and that's necessary, and we don't need to poo-poo that as a real thing. I have changed. I'm sure a lot of you in the chat have changed. Like nobody read Marx in high school. None of y'all read bell hooks in high school. All of y'all had to find that shit later on in life. And then between that time, you were fucked up, I guarantee. I think it's a quote, you are the enemy in you are the villain in somebody else's story. I guarantee you that. So, if we're serious about that being the goal, then we want people like Kendrick to maintain a specific space where we don't have to deal with this type of baby's first steps out of toxicity activity. That is important. It's not fun. It's ugly and it's some bullshit. But it's important. Otherwise, we are giving them up to the powers that be on the other side of the food chain, of the spectrum. And so when I first heard not having a trans or queer experience in life, when I first heard Auntie Diaries, I was like, yes, I can't believe a rapper this big made such a, like, it's one thing to say, like, for Kanye to say in an interview 10 years ago, 15 years ago, stop being homophobic. It's one thing for like a quick throwaway line from Jay-Z about tight pants that he did on, like, I think it was on 444. You know, it's one thing to have a couple of them lines. It's another thing for like a whole ass song dedicated to it. Right? And if and like for the people that is aimed for, men like me, so men from, we talk about again with this paradigm from Kodak Black on to, I'm gonna say about here, because I know plenty of very progressive, very liberal, left-leaning men that are still struggling to engage with the idea of trans people. Still struggling with that. The tight pants bar, yeah. But it might be that Kendrick's bar that closes this part of that song that helps start that process. And that is valuable. But don't overclap. Don't cut that shit out. Cut that shit out. Because I see a bunch of motherfuckers saying, I don't even want to listen to that song. So we have a long way to go. But no. But in all seriousness, like, let's not overplay baby's first steps out of toxicity, is what I'm saying on this end. And respect any queer trans folks that's like, yeah, I don't care. Hey, that's a valid response. That's a valid response to a song with dad naming and, misgendering and the F slur over and over again. That's a valid response. Don't be please do not fight any queer person, trans person telling you they wasn't feeling it. It didn't work for them. You've missed the whole fucking point of the song. I compared it to that White Privilege album, that White Privilege song, from Macklemore a couple of years ago, and D. Blevins, great quote there. But I gotta move on because I gotta get out of here. Macklemore did those White Privilege songs, and they were cringy as fuck. Oh. I gotta react to those or something. I gotta do those. They're cringy as hell. It's baby's first anti-racism. It's what it is. He's saying Black Lives Matter. He's at a march. It's embarrassing. But, however, some folks, some white folks who are very, again, we're probably not this far on this side because I don't know what to do with the white folks all the way over here. I don't really engage. But there are white folks who did not understand, who had no clue about like how to engage with that song was useful to them. And I don't know. It may be just be me and my age. It may be my naivete, whatever the word is. But I just can't be categorically against effort if it works. And I guess I got to leave it at there. Seiko, you want to come say hi? Oh, it's Rohan. You want to come say hi, Rohan, since y'all been interrupting me the whole time?
Hi.
All right, I guess say bye because we about to go.
Bye.
All right, y'all. I have other responsibilities. I appreciate all y'all coming. I hope this made sense. This was not an essay, and I am not always going to be perfectly on point, especially with something this complex extemporaneously. But I appreciate y'all being here. I gotta say peace out. God willing, you'll see this next week. I give the album an 8 out of 10.